Hey there everyone, welcome to another Friday video. Recently I've been thinking a lot about my tanks, and I guess it's partially because I've pretty much done all the major work on them. It's pretty much sit down and enjoy at this point. But I've been thinking a lot about lighting specifically. So I thought I would kind of give you guys a little bit of my thoughts and observations regarding lighting your aquarium and how long and when to light it. The main reason I've been thinking about lighting lately is because I have kind of had some changes in my daily routines, and I've been kind of plotting how I can view my tanks for longer periods of time. I have originally been lighting my tanks for about 8 to 10 hours a day, and pretty much it's been throughout the day, and I would see the tanks for a few hours at night. So I have decided that I am pretty much going to change my lighting schedule a little bit, and that got me thinking about exactly how you should light your aquariums. Now, I'm not so much getting into talking about fixtures and different types of lights. That will maybe leave for another video another time. This is mainly talking about how long and trying to figure out a schedule that works for you. So the first thing to consider when you are trying to figure out how to light to your tank, think about when you'll be viewing your tank the most. How long do you want to sit down and enjoy your tank? After all, that is the reason we get aquariums in the first place. So in my case, my tanks will now be on mostly in the afternoon and into the evening, which gives me the maximum amount of viewing and enjoyment time. That may be a completely different time for you, but just kind of figure out when you really get the chance to sit down and enjoy it. So once you figure out when you want to view your tank, keep it consistent. So mainly what you're going to want to do is set up a timer for your lights, whether that be one that you plug the lights into, or buying a light that actually comes with a timer built in. You just want to have the set amount of time that the lights will be on the tank every day. Look at nature. The sun rises at a certain time and it sets at a certain time. So once you've got that all set up, you want to figure out exactly how long you want your tanks to run. I tend to run mine for about 8 to 10 hours at a time, which is a little bit on the longer end of the spectrum. You definitely don't want to go longer than 10 to 12 hours. Again, think about nature. The sun isn't out for very long. And you also have to consider that in a home aquarium, your lights are pretty much going to be set at the same setting for the amount of time that it's on, as opposed to in nature where you might get a cloudy day, overcasting, causing shadows. So you're not always getting the full intensity of the sunlight out in nature. So remember that. So I would suggest anywhere from about 8 to 10 hours as a good amount of time to run your tanks. But you don't want to start off at that high of a level. And what I mean by that is when you set up a new tank, you are still trying to balance the ecosystem you're trying to create. So you may want to start your lighting at a lower end, maybe 6-7 hours, and then gradually bump it up, maybe 15 minutes, half hour at a time, depending how your timer works. But bump it up little by little until you reach the desired length of time. And you're going to want to do that over the course of a few weeks, maybe even a couple of months. You definitely don't want to rush it. Be patient with it, or you may end up battling some algae. For example, in my Cobalt 8-gallon tank, at one point I added a second light to the tank, and what ended up happening was because I had redone the tank, added the light, I did end up getting some algae in there. So to make things easier for yourself, especially if you're just starting out, you want to start off at lower levels of light and then gradually work yourself up to the desired time period. And on a final note, one thing to consider when you're trying to figure out how long you're running your lights is what kind of tank are you running? Are you running a fish-only tank with plastic plants and some decorations? Or are you running a fully planted aquarium or a lightly planted aquarium? In a tank with only fish and plastic decorations, you're definitely going to want to watch how long you run your lights. Now in a planted tank, you have a little bit more leeway because the plants are taking up nutrients from fish waste and any uneaten foods. However, you do still have to find a balance between lighting, plant load, and whether or not you're adding fertilizer or CO2. And this part kind of takes a little bit of playing with your settings, observation, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work, and kind of making judgment calls from that. Alright guys, so those are my thoughts and observations on lighting your freshwater aquariums, whether it just be fish or planted. As always guys, feel free to leave me a comment down below. Let me know any of your tips or tricks when it comes to lighting an aquarium. And as always guys, thanks for watching, and I will see you next week.